All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the training class. Today we're going to go over with mostly the open world stuff. So give me a minute and I'll go live so you can look in case you got questions. As always, it's not required, uh, but it helps. Everything look okay? Looks weird on my screen.
It looks good to me.
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, cool. So first thing we'll do is we're going to go to the Watchman to leave town. So going to leave fief, and you'll look. There's a few things that you'll notice here. One, it shows your current leadership, and it shows your troop speed. Right now, with no troops, I'm running at 4. My labor, obviously, I have no troops, so it's 0. And then that's how long it takes my food to go, which is 41 minutes, 40 seconds. So I'll pick troops. Let's say I was going out harvesting, so I would pick my serfs. You'll notice I picked a serf, and my troop speed dropped down to 2.6, but my labor jumped up to 11.2, and my total time my food is exhausted is 20 minutes. So as you can see, each one adds 11.2 of my serfs, and so on and so forth. A couple things that I didn't know until much later than I probably should have is just because you bring cav, not all cav is created the same. For example, I'm still 4 speed with my Couteliers, but if I were to bring, I can't remember which one's slower. These right here, there we go. But when I bring my Hussars, I drop down to 3.5. So not all cav speed is the same. I was probably 500 or so before I realized that. So I like to share my knowledge gaps that I have. So when we go out, I'll just make it easy. Take whatever's there. So obviously, out in the open world is where you can get your resources. They also have abandoned camps and things of that nature, huts and whatnot. Those can drop pretty much anything in the game, although not too often does it drop something well. So as you can see, I can actually click on the map, I guess, to pick wherever I want to go. Uh, you can see there's people around here, and you can get attacked in the open world. That's part of the fun. I'm not actually going to attack somebody. But at the bottom of my screen here, you can see I can view my wagon. It's the same thing as pushing I. I don't know why it's down there, but it is. There's also the next one, which is pitch camp, which makes you relatively invulnerable. Uh, and you can queue from here. So it's really convenient if you're out harvesting and somebody says, hey, anybody want to join us for this? You can immediately pitch your camp and join the queue. Return to camp will take you back to your camp. It does use a token, I believe, right here. The return order. And it's got a timer that you can reuse for free. I don't know what it is. I almost never use it.
What are you guys doing?
We're not doing anything. We're doing a training.
Oh, okay.
The You can pitch a field camps. This is for Marshall and up. That's how you create those little camps that we fight over and have some fun at. And then units right here. This is something that I also learned much later than I probably should have. And you can see all the group members' units and their siege equipment. As you can see, obviously I didn't bring any siege. But that's the gist of it. So how can I go there and be more effective? So looking at my map, we'll look at the nearest thing to harvest right here, which is food. Uh, One of the other things that you can do is line 1 is the generally populated line when you go outside of a city or fief or anything. If you look up here at the top right of the screen, I know you guys can't see my mouse, but I'm over there where it says one line OK and then a drop down. You can actually use that drop down and pick a different line. So I can pick line 2 or any of the other ones for that matter. And that'll make it much more or much less likely that you will be found. So 1 is going to be definitely the most populated. I think Sader's going to hit me in a minute. But the main point of switching lines is to try to either avoid contact or find people. Once a battle does start, whether it's a rebel battle or it's otherwise, it will be open to everybody on all the lines. So it doesn't matter what line you are on. You will see if I were to fight this rebel here to my right, it would show up on all the lines, and if somebody was to attack me, it would show up on all lines. So when I get to wherever I want to harvest, I have a couple options. One of them is to hit gather. Right there where it says daily yields left 1, because my house and/or alliance does not own this. I can harvest this once, or I can use a requisition for as many times as I want. A requisition token looks like this weird, I don't know, shield-looking thing. And then you can harvest this as much as you want until the reserves are out. The reserves is basically how much is there. So gathering is easy. You just click. It's got a little timer on there. It's about the same. And then how much you get is based off of that labor I showed you at the very beginning. And your technology tree, which I'll show in just a minute. You can get to your technology tree by pushing U, and then it's the last tab over here. And then say, for example, there is not a technology for food that I just harvested, but the first top one is for stone production. So as I go across, the first one gives you 5% more exotics and resources. The next one gives you stone, and then the third one gives you more exotics, regular, and then exotics again. And it's the same for all of them. So the first one gives you whatever you're getting. Let's say I was harvesting stone. It would be whatever the stone node is. And I'll go into that a little bit more detail in a minute. The exotics that can come from it. And then again, as each one goes up. I'll get something that's got exotics. That would be smarter. So I'm going to go over to this cotton node right here. This time I'll use the rec token so you can kind of see the difference. There really is no functional difference other than it doesn't use your one, I call it free, but one requisitionless each week, or each day, sorry. To be honest, I probably should have came over here anyway to show you the exotics first. So if I were to harvest this right now, I would be getting long cotton. That's the regular material. And then the exotics are the possible results, for example, flax and hemp. So as I use a rec token here, gives you OK. It's the exact same, except for you'll notice my daily yields left still says 1. So the benefit of the rec token is that you don't have to pay the tariff fee up top. You just pay the requisition tariff. Any questions so far? Okay. Oh, cool. I'll go to trees. So each region has a regional exotic. There is under the, what's it called? Tal's Guide, I think. Is that where it is? Yep, Tal's Guide. There is a Google Doc. It's called Kit Crafting and Harvesting. If you open that up, you can check out what the... Hang on a second. Let me get my baby. Sorry about that. So the kit crafting guide will actually show you everything that you can get. It shows the regional exotics and how to refine them and how to make them into materials. The reason why it's exhausted. I'm an idiot. I should have noticed that. Is this exhausted? There we go. So the regional exotics are unique in that they're an extra thing that you can get only to a specific region. As you harvest, there's cooler things such as paying this. So every time you harvest, you get base 200 technology points, and then as you get an exotic, it gives you more technology points. So that's why I try to recommend to do the regional exotics as much as possible. One, because it's the only place that you can get them, and two, because it gives you the more technology.
The extra XP also comes from your extra bonus in terms of how much you farm. Like in your technology tree, as you get more resources, it's like, I think it's 20% per node. it gives you more XP. So you can get up to like 600 XP for one farm if you farm something you're good at.
I thought that was just it was based off the exotics.
Exotics.
I think it's based off the exotics.
No, it's based on how much you get.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It's just the amount.
So technically, you can actually power level your XP by farming one thing. Like if you were to just do nothing but marble, and you just did marble, 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 and nothing else, you would get more XP for doing that than you would, say, farming oak. And then you could just take that XP and then put it into oak and then become good at oak. And that's essentially if you wanted to power level it.
Okay, and actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Kind of when I kind of wrap up this, I'm actually going to go a little bit more detailed into that because he is right. I'm going to give you the recommendations that I have for how to level it up. So you'll notice here that it's a blue exotic. This is a sign that it's a regional exotic. I'm sure there are exceptions. I just can't think of any right now. But maybe the border ones are purple. It's been a while. I can't remember.
Yep, purple.
Thank
It's
you.
just the rarity. It's just the rarity.
Okay. So over here you see the U. That is a western exotic to trees. So tree is kind of unique in that both the east and the west has a unique tree, and it's in all the regions. So Ungiveria and Austeria have the western, and then Liangyun and Maoyang have the eastern ones. So that's why I wanted to show you. You'll see it has normal exotics. So, and then kind of to piggyback off what was just brought up, going back to the technology tree, this is my personal recommendation and how I would do it. Look at what region you're in. For example, right now I'm in Australia, so my regional exotic is copper. And of course, I'm in the west, so that's also trees, which is lumber. So what I would do is, which one's copper? There we go. I would get to the first exotic bonus on copper, and then I would get to the first exotic bonus on trees, wherever they are. There they go. And then I would go back into either copper or trees, or you can go and get them all into the first one. That way, every time you go, you get a better chance at exotics. Any questions on that?
Nope.
All right. So that's pretty much how to harvest. So So there's other things that you can do in battle. That is relative to territory wars. And so, say for example, I'll look on this map. Let's say for example that Fischerstadt just had a heavy force that's coming towards it, and we have the good guys that are defending Ostensee will need some assistance. So what they can do is slow it, but they don't have enough time to get their troops here, or whatever. There's a couple of ways to intercept. So one of the ways that you would intercept is obviously you would click on somebody. There's a pursue, and then you can pursue, and you got to catch them. That's why I had mentioned and shown you the relative speed at the beginning before we left town, because that plays a part in it. There's a couple things to do when you intercept somebody. One of them is to delay, and each house and alliance has their own way of going about it. But the gist of it is you might be doing it to delay, and at that point you just want to hit them. You don't care if you win or lose. That's usually used for either fast troops to headshot commanders, or to also if there's no supply or if there is a supply nearby. So for example, let's say from Fischerstadt, that's owned by the High Council right now. So if the High Council was coming here, they don't have to go too far to restock up. If, however, let's say somebody all the way over here, if Habibis was coming all the way over here, we would want to intercept to kill. And what you're doing there is you're hurting troops. You want to win. And at that point, you don't necessarily want to, it doesn't matter if you do 2-on-1s, whatever it takes to get the win, because they have to go either all the way back or go in weakened. So I might say delay, and then you just go in there and all you're doing is just tie them up as long as you can. You fight the best, or run around and play chicken games, whatever you want to do in there to delay.
They can heal off of the border forts.
That's true. That is closer. That'd still be a long run. But yes.
It still pisses them off.
Yes. So like I said, each one or each alliance or house, whatever, has their own goals and whatnot for that. And that's why a lot of times you'll say, okay, I'm getting attacked. Okay, thanks. Die quietly. because we got other shit we got to do because we're in transit because they're using those tactics on us. Ways to if you're going out with wagon checking and things like that. The things to do you're going to do is if I'm going to go out wagon checking for something, usually I have a reason. Somebody's been doing it to us, or that's usually actually the only reason why I do it. But other people do it because they enjoy it. So let's say like right here, I would see that along this line here, where from Cooperdorf, which is that weird ugly blue, up to Cooperbach, there's a purple there, and then there's another purple cowhide tannery. So if I were to go look around, that's where I would go, looking around for purples, because there's 3, and actually if you look at whatever that word is up in the northeast, there's another cowhide tannery. So if I was, that's kind of a line that I would take, kind of going along there looking for people. Again, regional exotics. So right here, this copper mine I'm looking at over at Westweg, that would be a good spot to go look. Obviously, it would be better if it was purple. That's something that you could do. Another thing that is good to do is to go out in groups because you can cover more lines that way, but also you can cover more area that way. So going back to the example I gave before about these 3 purple cowhides, I could send 1 to each, and then we could cover the cowhides better. It's usually a little bit more prevalent using those kind of tactics in the borderlands where the resources are more valuable. Specifically, horse nodes. Purple horses get a lot of attention. Has anybody seen a purple horse outside the borderlands? Because I have not yet. I know that they patched it and said that there has been.
Once.
Okay. Lucky. So, yeah, there isn't any hot spots that I could see real quickly. So that's the gist of the open field combat. I didn't go over the food. I guess the consumption paused because right now I am in my own land, or land owned by my alliance. If you look over here on the legend side, there's all kinds of things you could do. What I did to get this color stuff is overlays. I get rid of the overlays. It just makes it a lot easier to see. If you don't want to see all the trade stuff, and you can read. You're probably all literate. You can play around with that to get the map the way you want it. That's another thing that'll help. Unfortunately, you can't pick specific, like you can't get rid of quarries. That would be cool because then you could just fine tune what you were looking for. Anybody got questions on anything so far? Okay, I talked about the consumption. One thing that did change, I don't know if you guys all read the patch notes, but this is actually at the beginning of the season. Used to be able to add food from your wagon into your consumption bar at any time you wanted, and now it auto-populates. It'll auto-populate out of it, and I believe it pulls it out in 1,500 increments at a time. So as long as you're in green or blue land like this, you will be able to not use food, live off the land, so to speak. And actually, your food will go up. It'll regen over time. So the further you have to go, the more food you would either have to bring or whatever. Let's see. Anybody else got anything that they could think of for the open world that I might have forgotten? Anybody got questions about anything I might not have either covered or I did cover and it's not clear to you?
Rebels?
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. So, obviously, there's Rebels. You can tell their difficulty. You can see right here, the one I'm walking to has 2 skulls, so that's the equivalent of a medium. And there's one over here, or 3 helmets, whatever you want to call it. That is a hard one. It's yellow, so it's not aggressive. I actually don't see any aggressive Rebels here. The one that attacked me earlier when I had that pop up, that was an aggressive rebel. So I usually pay them because my time is way too precious for that shit. The only good thing about rebels is you get rebel loot for thief quests. That's about it. I hate them. I think the game would be better without rebels, like at all. But thank you, Sky. Anybody else got anything that they either want to know about or something I might have forgotten about?
Free towns, basically.
Oh yeah, good call. So Freetowns, I'm actually near one. So when you go and you look on the world right here, it's actually called Freetown. Obviously, not all of them are called Freetowns. I'll go to one that's not. So Vassarverio, there's also a Freetown. That's where I recommend you make your. If it's not an NPC city or the starting city, I recommend you make it your home in one of these because it can't be taken over. And because if your camp gets taken over, you lose shit, and I'm too cheap for that. So that's the weird icon. I don't know what are we calling this? Anybody?
The yellow icon is for to indicate it's a trading hub. You can actually trade there,
Okay, so that is a T then. I'm calling it a T.
or a balance thing like a
Oh, a scale up.
It's a balance.
scale.
It's a scale.
Okay, I like that. A scale. Okay, and it's got these weird fucking horns on top of it because why not? That's a good thing. Anybody else got anything?
Primitive.
Yeah. Cool. Uh, we're gonna keep this one short and sweet. Then we're gonna go right into a unit. Do you need to attack to show it off, or not?
Oh, no. Okay, I guess I can. You want me to pursue?
Go ahead and talk about it first. That way I can show on my screen what unit you're talking about, and and then you can show it in action and kill my guys or something.
All right. So, my name is Saderr. I'm from House THOYS. I'm the leader of House THOYS. I'm here to talk about Keshigs. I've got pretty much all the golden cav at this point, and I definitely love Keshigs the most. They're not necessarily the best cav out of the ones that are in the golden cav area, but they are extremely versatile. I specifically use mine as infantry / unit killers. However, they also have the ability to annihilate other cavs. Specifically, I would say Raton Rangers they're a good counter for them. The veterancy bonuses, if you go up through the top tree, will make you more infantry focused. And this is kind of where the bread and butter of Keshigs lie. The infantry damage, the ones you want to look at specifically, is at the end. There is an infantry damage node. And then before that, there is the blade edge, which is actually saber chop. So what makes Keshigs amazing for killing infantry is something that in our house we've dubbed dragging. The idea is when you pass your horses over units, they'll basically do as much damage as possible. With the saber chop of the Keshigs, they are just extremely good at removing infantry heads while passing over them as quickly as possible. You take a look at their formations. They come with wedge, line, and dispersed. The wedge formation is essentially the key to using them when you are not charging them. Just like Raton Rangers, you spam this wedge formation. It keeps them in that triangle, and that's how you get them over your targets while also maintaining the position and not having them essentially run wild. Because of the saber chop and the infantry damage, you're looking at somewhere in the range of, I believe they also have another infantry damage bonus in that same tree. You're looking at somewhere in the range of 50 to 60% infantry damage, which you will regularly see saber chops anywhere between 6,000 and 7,000 damage infantry wise. So when it comes to killing infantry, there is pretty much no horse that is going to wipe them out faster than Keshigs. The strength of Keshigs lie in their speed. Unfortunately, there is one item that you need for Keshigs that I would say is almost mandatory, and that is the cavalry speed doctrine, which I'm not sure if Telomere actually has. It will. Oh, he does have it. That's good. If you take a look at the Keshig stats, you'll see that their speed goes up to, I believe, somewhere between 11 or 11.7. 11.7 is insanely fast. You can do things like put your Keshigs in one side of the map, call them to you, and just have them saber chop their way across the map to you and just appear just out of thin air. They are that fast. Weaknesses with this, of course, is that since Keshigs are, step units, they are not armored. They don't have the ability to be fireproof. And so their main counter and it exists. It's not one that actually is commonly used, but fire arrows will absolutely decimate Keshigs. They will panic. They will not move. They will, as soon as one fire arrow touches them, they're just done. That's it. That's it. Game over. You're done. However, there are things that they can do that people don't quite know. For instance, spear sergeants have the ability, they're a very common unit, and they have a stunning ability. In the bottom of their tree, they're anti-cav. Most people would think that would be enough to take care of Keshigs. It is, however, not. A line of Keshigs can charge through a line of spear sergeants and actually decimate almost the entire line, basically killing them all with very little damage taken to themselves. If you use their charge, the drag is a little bit more sketchy, but the reason for that is because the Keshigs, their damage is extremely high and their penetration stats, I believe if Telomere can bring them back up, you'll see that their penetration, or well, his might not be high enough, but penetration is somewhere in the 2K range with like 2,000 or 3,000 slashing damage. Sorry, their slashing damage is about, mine are 1420 slashing damage with 2227 slashing penetration. That will cut through most of the heavier armored units, even Reapers. When you use the Keshig's charge to combine with all this infantry damage, you gain, I believe, somewhere in the range of 30% damage on a return charge. And the way the Keshigs work with their charge is that they will actually charge and then return after 8 seconds. When the Cav got nerfed across the board, the Keshigs were probably one of the few horses that survived simply because of that ability, heroic charge. Previously, before this season, Keshigs, or most horses, would charge, and that if they were knocked out of charge by taking damage or whatever, they would attempt to re-enter charge and continue going until the ability was over. Most horses, all the horses, lost that ability. However, because of Keshigs, after 8 seconds, no matter what has happened, they will go back into charge to come back to you. And that is essentially one of the saving graces to the horse nerf, along with the fact that most horses also got mobility nerfed, but the Keshigs, because of that mobility doctrine and their high speed, it didn't change anything. They just will whip around corners and just saber chopping their entire way through. Anybody have any questions before I go on? No one?
Nope. I just want to break up how you get it for any of the new players real quick. So I'm going to push my F5 button, and that pulls up the seasonal window. So I'll go to unit challenges. Soldiers of Fortune is season 3. It's actually, the Keshigs are a season 2 unit. So I'll have to drop down here, and you can see I can, if you don't already have them unlocked, you can, I could switch to this right here for free. And there's a 3-day cooldown on switching back and forth between seasons. So if you wanted to go back and get the Keshigs, that's how you would do it. That's all I got.
The benefits to the Keshigs in this sense, since like I said, I have all the golden cav, I have them all and they're all level 30. The Keshigs are solidly within the top 3 of the golden cav, simply because of a couple of reasons. The cheapness in which to get them. They don't cost you honor. All you have to do is do their challenges, and boom, you have Keshigs. Their price in terms of death compared to the other cav, I think Keshigs cost anywhere between 5,000 bronze for the horse and about 8,000 to 9,000 per kit. That's not expensive when you're talking 16, 15K, monastic knight level prices. The other part is that the Keshigs are one of the only 2 golden cav, the other being Rattan Rangers, that, as Telomere's talked about, when Telomere was talking about speed, I didn't think he stressed how much that speed matters. When you are out in the open world, Keshigs and Rattan Rangers are the only horses that will not slow you down. If you take off your units, your maximum run speed is 4.0. With Keshigs and Rattan Rangers, your maximum speed is 4.0. What that means is that when you are in the open world with Keshigs and Rattan Rangers, you get to choose if you want to fight or not. Nobody can force you to fight. You will be able to outrun anybody, and nobody will be able to catch you. That is a huge strength to Keshigs. There was another part. I forgot to mention the second part of the heroic charge ability. It does that charge and then charge back, but then each charge actually has its own abilities. If you read, the initial charge is actually damage reduction. It's 30% damage reduction, which doesn't sound like much, except for the fact that the Keshig defenses are deceptively high. Keshigs have about, at least mine, 400. Mine have, I may have a defense doctrine in it, but I have about 500 piercing defense, 550 slashing defense, and around, I think it's around 400. No, yeah, 344 blunt defense, which is not that much. However, when you take into account that 30% damage reduction, you can throw Keshigs, as I said, into spear sergeants or something that would normally really devastate them, and they just won't take that much damage. And they have some of the highest HP in the game. Level 30 Keshigs have 11,000 HP, which compared to, I think, pretty much every golden cav, you've got Wing Tazars with 10k, you've got Cataphracts with 10.8, Raton Rangers with 8, Fire Lancers with 11.3, Keshigs, my Keshigs are 11.3, and my Monistic Knights are 11.6. So they are tied in second for the highest HP pool of a horse, and they are not technically armored. Between the extremely fast mobility and then the initial part of that damage reduction on the charge, you're just going to basically find them surviving a lot better as long as you don't throw them at fire.
Nice. Has anybody got any questions about the Keshigs or questions for him in general?
How about the first line in that? Is there any like the bottom ones with the bows?
Oh, you're talking about the Unit 2 seasonal challenges?
Yeah, like people like me, I didn't start until the very start.
Are you talking about non-con archers or Kev Tool cavalry?
In this case, Corchins.
Oh,
but
so
any of the earlier.
Well, if I may, Telemir,
Yeah, go ahead.
we have a lot of experience in our house with these, because when we came into the house, these were the units that we went for just because of how easy they were to get in the beginning. I pretty much can. I'm sure everybody can agree with this if I were to say this out loud. Non-con archers are the most broken unit in the game. There is no unit better than them, hands down. If you are a new player and you want to be valuable very quickly, get non-con archers. They will break everything. There's not a thing they can't kill. Because of the way that their bleed works and the way that it refreshes with every arrow that they touch, and it does about 3,000 damage on max level non-cons, they destroy everything. There's
Did he cut out or did I?
Oh, sorry, it must have been me.
Okay.
I was saying that they are a threat just because their leadership cost is essentially non-existent. They're a 3-star unit who cost about, I believe, 180 leadership. And they can go, like, let me tell you, I'll take my Reapers or I'll take my Keshigs and I will run over every non-con archer I ever see. And if my entire Keshig unit dies, I'll just say it was worth it, because they are non-con archers left alone are devastating. Corchins are not terrible, but they have only one real use. Corchins are very good if you're a new character and you can't get golden cav quickly, but you also want to ride with the people who are out raiding and doing stuff with their high level cav. Corchins are your ability to have a unit that actually does quite a lot of damage to other cav. They are less focused in the sense that their formation is very wide and they're a little bit wild, but as long as you manage them, they actually do quite a lot of damage for not that much leadership, while also having that same 4.0 planes speed that the Kev Tool and the Raton Rangers. When I said 4.0 speed specifically, I was talking about Golden Cav. All the season 2 cavalry have that ability to move that fast, just like Kev Tool, or sorry, just like Keshigs. However, the one cav that I would tell you not touch is Kev Tool. Kev Tool cavalry are completely and utterly worthless. There is no way to make them work. They actually do a lot of damage in terms of their charge, but you're charging a unit that's worth 270 or 280 leadership. They are made of less than paper. I believe their defenses are essentially reversed. Their ability, they have an ability that allows them to shoot arrows where you press R, or sorry, you press 2, and then they'll pull out their bows and they'll shoot. And they essentially kind of turn into Rattan Rangers in a sense, because they are actually extremely fast. Kevtool, given the mobility doctrine, move at 12.3, which makes them faster than Keshigs. And I believe the only thing faster than them is actually Scout Cavalry. But their defenses are essentially non-existent. I have not maxed mine yet, but that's because I've been trying to level them, but they're just painful. They're worthless. Don't use them. Don't touch them. Don't. Salem Kid on the other hand, which I believe is the other Cav, they actually do a lot of damage. They're actually fairly useful given their price, and they are far better than Kevtool. All of these cavalry move fast out in the open world. So if you don't want to be caught, these are the ones to use.
Cool. I've been looking for some ranged units. I play longswords, so I mostly just pile on in a thing and tank everything, but once in a while a ranged unit's used.
I know this is beyond the scope, but if you're looking for a cavalry to use as longsword, monastic knights are pretty much, as I said, there were top three cavalry for me. This is my opinion. Keshigs, monastic knights, and Rattan Rangers. Keshigs would be 3 on this list. They are my favorite cavalry, but that doesn't mean I'm an idiot. Monastic knights and Rattan Rangers are the 2 most solid cavalry that currently exist in the game. Cataphracts didn't survive the nerf. Winged Hussars didn't really survive it. And Fire Lancers are always just kind of fun to use, but they're not competitive.
All right. Anybody got any other
Cool, thank you.
questions about anything?
Actually, for the collection, did you talk about the 5 serfs trick?
Yeah, talked about using 5 serfs.
Cool.
Just to make sure, yeah, you can take 5 serfs. I guess I can show you when you go down the serf tree. I didn't go down that. So when you go down the serf veterancy, you're going to want to go to the bottom line to level 7. This gives you more collected resources. Twice, there it is. So that's how you get your labor up that high. If you look, 11.2.
I generally run 4 serfs in my Rattan Rangers or Keshigs, whichever one.
Yeah, that's protection.
Yep. Another way to do that is if you go out in a group, especially if you go out in a group, have everybody take 1 combat troop, and then you've got if you have a full group, that's 5 people. It would take a lot to hit that.
Generally speaking, within my experience, when it comes to open world stuff, you may see a guy like me with Keshigs and Rattan Rangers, but in a fight, it's pretty much just going to come down to the first horse. The fight will very, very rarely are you pulling out your second unit.
True story. Any other questions or anything? It doesn't have to be related to this. All right, cool. Thanks everybody for showing up. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. If you've got any questions, you want to know what you want to do for the next training session, you can ping me or you can hit it up in the Discord. That's all I got.
All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming and being our guest speaker.